Hit that like button right away so you don't miss episode 27, where Tu Diep strives to keep her simple life on the farm while confronting rumors and threats from those beyond her safe haven. Join us for her emotional and determined journey as everything changes in the blink of an eye. Morning light filtered through the small window of Tu Diep's modest home. James woke up, still surprised at how deeply he'd slept, a rare luxury in his busy life. He turned his head slightly and saw Tu Diep still sound asleep, bundled up in a thin blanket, her face peaceful like a child's. His phone rang. Tuan was calling, his voice urgent. "James, there's another issue with the batch of wood that has nails in it. Come with me today. I've arranged for you to work as a porter so you can easily get to the scene." James nodded and left Tu Diep's house after scribbling a quick note. "I have an urgent errand today. Sleep well. I'll be back soon." Tuan was in the pomelo orchard, reviewing paperwork, when his phone rang again. It was Tung, sounding hesitant. "Hey Tuan, could you help me find someone to pollinate the pomelo trees? I'll pay 250,000 dong a day." Tung suddenly thought of Tu Diep, the hard-working, down-to-earth girl who always gave it her all, little by little. He wondered if she might need extra work. Plus, he was also curious to see how she was doing out there on the farm. In his simple uniform, James slipped into the role of a porter at the lumber yard. The air was filled with the smell of fresh timber and sweat, punctuated by the constant tapping of hammers. Although he tried to keep his eyes open and ask around, James found no leads. Everyone was cautious and evasive whenever he mentioned the damaged shipment. When James got home, not even having time to change clothes, he found his father waiting. The older man's face was stern, his eyes fixed on his son. "This botched wood deal caused major losses," his father said. "Our partners think we're incompetent. But what disappoints me even more is that you've chosen love over this company." James spoke calmly. "I'm not choosing to abandon my career. I'm just not willing to abandon Diep." His father slammed his hand on the table, furious. "If you won't let go of that girl, then prepare to lose everything." James held firm. He stood, looking toward the door. "If the price of keeping this company is giving up the person I love, then it's no longer worth keeping." A silent battle began. On one side was a genuine love that grew stronger by the day. On the other was the empire James had built and protected. But for the first time, he wasn't afraid to stand alone. What he truly feared was losing the chance to keep walking this path with Tu Diep. Morning sunlight streamed through the bamboo window frame, softly illuminating Tu Diep's face, which still carried a trace of sleepiness. She rolled over, her hand landing on the empty, cool space on the thin mattress. James had already gone. She sat up, eyes scanning the room. The house looked the same as yesterday, but something inside her felt different, hollow, missing. She sighed quietly. "I wish you could have stayed just a bit longer." Not allowing herself to dwell on that feeling, Tu Diep got up, washed her face, swept the house, then opened the lid of a foam box. Inside were sapodillas she had ripened the day before, covered with husks that had turned a deeper brown, soft and fragrant. Meticulously she wiped each piece of fruit, wrapped them in newspaper, then hoisted a woven basket over her shoulder, ready for the market. The market was crowded that day. Tu Diep spread out an old tarpaulin by the roadside and displayed her sapodillas. With her sincere manner and pleasant way of chatting, her fruit sold faster than expected. A female customer exclaimed, "Your sapodillas smell amazing." "I'll take 3 kilos. Another chimed in, "They look so fresh. Did these come from your own orchard?" In less than a morning, her basket was empty. Tu Diep gathered her small bills, knotted the fabric pouch tightly, waved goodbye to some familiar neighbors, and headed back. But as soon as she reached her gate, she froze. Sitting by the wooden table under a tree was James's father, his gaze cold and face grim. Tu Diep approached cautiously, greeting him softly, "Hello, sir." He studied her for a moment, then spoke. "Do you realize what you're doing? James runs a company with thousands of workers. If he gives it all up for you, who will shoulder the consequences?" Tu Diep was stunned, unable to answer. He continued, "If you really love him, think about his future. Don't let personal feelings ruin everything. It's best if you step away." His words cut like a knife. Tu Diep gripped the hem of her shirt, her eyes stinging, but she didn't dare argue back. James's father stood, nodded and left, leaving her alone in the yard. Moments later, Tung arrived at the gate and caught sight of Ly Tu Diep, eyes red, standing in a daze. He asked hesitantly, "I just saw him leaving. What did he say to you?" Ly Tu Diep gave a sad smile and shook her head. "He just told me to think it over. About me and James." Tung stepped closer, his gaze straightforward but gentle. "Diep, his family doesn't accept you. The gap between you two, you know it's there, right?" She turned away, trying to hide the tears welling up. I know everything, but I really love him. I've never loved anyone like this before." Her voice trembled. "And yet, if we keep going, I'm afraid I'll make him lose everything. I don't want to be a burden." Tung was quiet for a moment, then asked softly, "So what are you going to do? Break up?" The pain in her eyes was shattering. "I'm letting go because I love him." Neither spoke another word. In the fading light of late afternoon, the breeze whispered like a gentle farewell, and there, in the same old yard, this small, determined young woman chose loneliness once again. After Tung left, Ly Tu Diep returned to her tiny house in the quiet farm. In the soft glow of the setting sun filtering through the pomelo trees, she silently sorted vegetables, her hands trembling because she couldn't hold back her tears. She thought of James, everything good he had done for her, and all the burdens now weighing on him. "It has to end," she told herself, biting her lip to stop shaking. Then she picked up her phone, her hand unsteady, and called James, gently asking him to come over for dinner. He agreed without hesitation, his voice as warm as ever. On the way, he even picked up some roast duck, the dish she had once mentioned she liked, an unspoken show of how he cared. As soon as James walked through the yard, before he could say a word, Ly Tu Diep rushed toward him and threw her arms around him. She broke down sobbing, clinging to him like she never wanted to let go. Holding her, James asked softly, "What's wrong, baby?" But she stayed silent. They just stood there in the soft darkness, accompanied by the sound of insects and the pounding of their own hearts. Dinner was simple but comforting. They sat across from each other, the warm light gently illuminating their faces. Just as James was about to pick up a piece of meat, Ly Tu Diep set down her chopsticks and spoke in a quiet but resolute voice. I don't love you, James." He froze, staring at her in disbelief. "What did you say?" "All this time, I've just been grateful to you, that's all. We're not right for each other. Let's stop this." James set down his chopsticks, his face drained of color. "That's not true. You're lying. It's because my father pressured you, isn't it? You're scared of the opposition, so—" "No," she cut him off, her eyes cold but filled with pain. "I'm telling the truth. I've thought long and hard. You have your own future. I shouldn't interfere." James lowered his head, his fist clenched. It felt like his heart was shattering. "So, everything was just an act? You never really loved me?" Ly Tu Diep said nothing. She only turned away, her eyes brimming with tears. The rest of the meal passed in silence. James left the farm without a word. Once in his car, he stared blankly ahead, his hands still trembling on the steering wheel. Finally, he pulled over, leaned his forehead against it, and let a single tear fall. Quiet, yet cutting to the core. It was perhaps the first time James had ever felt such profound loss. In the darkness of that night, all he had left was himself and a broken heart. In a damp, abandoned house deep in the forest, John sat down to negotiate with lythieuca, a notorious local enforcer. Their eyes met in a sinister exchange. John pulled out a thick wad of bills, placed it on the rotting wooden table, and spoke quietly. "I need someone taken within 3 days. Don't harm him. 10 grand. Duke glanced at the money, smirking. "That price only works if nothing goes sideways. Your target isn't exactly a nobody." After some haggling, they settled on 15,000 USD. John agreed immediately. His eyes gleamed with the thrill of a plan set in motion. James woke up from a sleepless night, eyes sunken with worry after Ly Tu Diep's breakup call. Splashing some cold water on his face, he was startled by the phone ringing. Tuan again. "We got a lead. Son, the driver we suspect of being in cahoots with John will be at the lumberyard today. Be ready." James kept it brief. "Got it." He hurriedly ate a cold bowl of noodles, then quickly changed clothes and headed out. According to the plan, James continued undercover as a laborer at the lumber yard. No one paid him much attention, his eyes were focused and his phone was discreetly set to record. When Son slipped behind a container truck to accept a wad of cash from a stranger, James managed to capture the entire transaction on video. On the recording, Son admitted he had sabotaged the wood on John's orders. With the evidence in hand, James made a swift exit. He hopped on his motorbike, planning to meet Tuan and report everything. But on a deserted stretch of road behind a mountain pass, two men staged a fake accident to block his way. James hardly had time to react before a faint smell of chemicals filled his nose. Everything went hazy. A little while later, James's bike was stolen. He was taken away on another motorcycle to an abandoned house deep in the woods, without anyone knowing. Night fell, and with it, John's true scheme came into clearer focus. Tu Diep quietly packed her clothes into an old cloth bag, carefully folding each item. She knew she was leaving soon, not because she had stopped loving James, but because she refused to be the burden that would jeopardize him and the hundreds of workers relying on his company. The decision tore at her heart, yet she believed it was the only way to protect the man she loved. Before leaving, she went to see her mother. They sat on the porch, the sunlight trickling through the leaves overhead, illuminating the silver strands in her mother's hair. Tu Diep held her mother's hands, speaking softly. "Mum, I'm leaving for a job far away. I want to earn money to take care of our family." Her mother was silent for a long moment, then asked, "And what about you and James?" Tu Diep lowered her gaze, pressing her lips together. "We're just friends, Mum. That's all." Her mother looked deeply into her eyes, wrinkles telling the story of a lifetime's love and understanding. "If life out there becomes too hard, come home to me, okay?" Unable to hold back any longer, Tu Diep wept, resting her head on her mother's shoulder. They clung to each other for what felt like forever before Tu Diep finally stood up to leave. Her mother walked her to the yard, watching until her small figure disappeared behind the trees. Returning home, Tu Diep made her final preparations. She slung on her basket with Haki at her side. Everything seemed ready, until her phone rang. It was James. Her heart skipped a beat. She picked up, bracing herself to hear his voice. Instead, a low, menacing male voice came through. "We've got James." The tone was cold, emotionless. Tu Diep felt her legs go weak. The line erupted in the sound of shouts, then cut off abruptly. It turned out the kidnappers, Duke's men, had called the wrong number before handing the phone to John. Although she couldn't piece everything together, Tu Diep knew one thing for certain. James was in danger. Panicked, she tried calling back over and over, but no one picked up. She clutched Haki tightly, her hands shaking, her thoughts in chaos. Fear, love, and helplessness nearly overwhelmed her. Outside, the wind had started to howl, and within Tu Diep's heart, another storm was just beginning to rage.
Cô cúi xuống nhìn Haki, chú chó đang bẫy đuôi bên chân cô, và mỉm cười yếu ớt. Haki, bạn đã đói chưa? Cô hỏi với giọng dịu nhẹ nhàng như nói với một người bạn thân thiết. Cô lấy chút thức ăn căng bếp nhỏ xuống, đặt xuống quan sát Haki. Anh ngấu nghiến với đôi mắt long lanh nhìn chú chó. Cô cảm thấy lòng nhẹ nhõm hơn một chút, nhưng nỗi dây dứt về giam vẫn không ngừng gõ cửa tâm hồn cô. Mình đã từ chối anh ấy, nhưng tại sao là mình đại đau như thế này? Cô tự hỏi, tay vô thức siết chặt mép áo rách như thể muốn bám víu một điều gì đó không thể chìm vào hố sâu cảm xúc. Cô thức dậy quyết định bắt đầu ngày mới bằng công việc quen thuộc, nấu ăn cho Haki, chăm sóc vườn. Khi ngọn lửa trong bếp nhỏ bùng lên, cô nhìn vào đó, tưởng tượng con mực giam hiện ra giữa những tia sáng nhảy múa. Cô nhớ đến giọng nói